아. 연습생. 어찌 보면 나 자체이지만 뭐라고 형용할 수 없는 그런 말. 어딘가에 속하지도 않고 그렇다고 무엇을 하고 있지도 않은 그런 시기, 과도기. 내가 그 연습생 신분으로 살면서 가장 곤욕스러웠던 건 친척들과 친구들의 언제 나올 거냐고, 데뷔 언제 할 거냐고 하는 그런 그 질문들이었다. 나는 답을 할 수가 없었다. 뭐냐면 나도 모르니까. 나도 그 답을 알 수 없으니까. 자신감과 나에 대한 확신을 갖고 이곳에 왔지만 나를 기다리던 건 정말 다른 현실. 아직도 3년이 지난 지금도 내가 나가면 가요계를 정복해버리겠다, 할 수 있을 것 같다, 이런 확신을 찾다가도 막상 PD님들과 선생님들께 혼나고 나면 내가 정말 아무것도 아닌 것 같은, 정말 먼지밖에 안 되는 것 같은 그런 기분. 꼭 마치 내 앞에 푸르른 바다가 있다가도 뒤를 돌아보면 황량한 사막이 날 기다리는 것 같은 그 기분. 정말 그 모래시계 같은 기분에서, 그 기분 속에서 나는 내 연습생 3년을 보냈다. 그리고 나는 지금 데뷔를 앞두고 있다. 내가 데뷔를 하더라도 아마 다른 바다와 다른 사막이 나를 기다리고 있을 것이다. 그치만 조금도 두렵지 않다. 분명 지금 나를 만든 건 지금 내가 본 바다와 그 사막이니까 절대 잊지 않을 것이다. 내가 봤던 그 바다와 그 사막을. 나는 연습생이니까.
Okay, so we are moving on to our ARMY review for this week, and we've almost finished the Too Cool for School album, so we've nearly got to the end of our boys' first ever mini album. I wanted to just say a few words about this album before we get started. I think it was very brave. It was very different. It was very unique. The messages that they were bringing were very personal and very true to who they were at the time, and had a lot of really relatable messages. Their sound was very hardcore, and you could tell that they had a lot of inspiration from hip hop and the types of places that they wanted to come from. And I think this album was put together very well in the way that it flowed from start to finish, the different messages. It was a great introduction to their characters. This is who we are. This is the type of music we want to make, and this is the type of message that we want to spread. And I think they did that very well. And considering how long ago they recorded this and how much less their budget was at the time, I think they did a fantastic job with this album, and it's something to really be proud of. And I'm glad that they got to a point these days where people can appreciate and love this album a lot more than it was shown when it was released. I'm just really glad that that happens. Yeah.
Agreed. To be honest, I think you actually hit on a really like a big point that I love, in that because they had less of a budget here, it seems more raw. It seems more gritty almost, and like I can just feel like there's no veneer. This is like who they actually are, and they put their heart and soul, as much as they were capable at the time, of creating something to symbolize like their worries, their fears, their thoughts, their passions in that moment. And so many years later, this is like a time capsule, and I love it.
Yeah, it's like getting to see their minds and their abilities and their capabilities from that time in 2013. And for us who weren't ARMY at the time, and for a lot of people, I feel like it's just so great that we have this time capsule, as you say, that we can just look back on and have an insight into how they were feeling at this time. And I just really love it. I think it's a great debut album from them. Yeah.
Me too. All right, so do you want to introduce the first song that we're going to talk about?
Yes. So we played it in our intro today. Hopefully you were around for that part of it. And yeah, this isn't one that I tend to listen to often, because with the hidden tracks, it's a lot harder to listen to them because they're not on my playlists or things like that where I rotate songs and stuff. So I have to actively seek them out. But it was really nice going back to them this week and being able to listen to them again. With this skit, the first one on the start line, it just shows me how incredibly smart and poetic Namjoon has been from such a young age. And I think it's amazing that they included this on the album just as a way for the leader of this new group to express himself and to express their journey up until that point. So if you don't know this song, it's basically Namjoon's poem just over some really like slow and simple piano instrumental. And yeah, it's a basic thing, but it's very effective. It's very tasteful. And when me and Yami were talking about it this week, we kind of thought that it would be for the best for us to just read out the translation that we have and let it speak for itself, because it's not really the type of song that you can comment much on or say too much about, because it is what it is. And I think Namjoon has better words than we do. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this one anyway, before we start?
I mean, like I mentioned before, I really like that this song is a window into their mindset at this time. And before we were going to do this, I had actually never heard this before because it's a hidden track. So I don't have this one and Path only appeared on the physical copies of their two Cool for School album. So I don't have that. And I didn't know to look for it. And honestly, I don't know any other artist who's done that, just from my personal experience. And I really like the concept of hidden tracks because it makes it seem like the artist is saying, hey, you took the time to buy a physical copy of my work. Here's an extra message, an extra thought that I want to share with you because I can tell that you care about me enough that you bought a physical copy of something of mine in an age when everything is digital.
Yeah, well, this is a different album, but with Love Yourself Her, that obviously has hidden tracks as well. And I don't know if you've heard the interview, but in the interview that they did, Namjoon said that the reason they put them as hidden tracks is because unless you've been with them for a long time, unless you really care and you're an ARMY and you really know them for who they are, then you probably wouldn't understand these songs. You would think of them as, I think, because one of them is C, and he said people would think, oh, well, you get so many numbers and you get such high positions on charts, so I don't really understand what you're talking about. And he said that for people who buy the physical copy, it's there just for the people who would truly understand their meaning and be able to link it to their characters. And I think that's so special, and it really makes that bond between ARMY and BTS just so prevalent because
it makes it so real.
Yeah.
Like who else would do that? If you've created an extra song, wouldn't you, a normal artist relationship, whatever, would want to just release it so that they would be able to
make money
off of it. Yeah, and in this case, BTS is saying, no, this is just for you. This is a message to you.
I really
we don't
love
care
that.
about the money.
Yeah.
Yes. So in terms of this song, the skit on the start line, I know you're gonna read through it, but just like the music alone is so sad. Like it's so
sad,
melancholy, and I just I look at it and I think about how they struggled before they even debuted, and you know that, right? That's they've always mentioned that and they've always said that, but then when you hear it in their music, that they took the time to actually put it into a song, into a skit, so that you could understand how they felt at that time, it just kind of it goes beyond just simply saying oh, I struggled. No, it's here's I put time and effort into the song so you can understand that here's our mindset at that time.
Yeah, and I mean, I've talked about it before, but I think their trainee years were probably the hardest for them. And they always talk about it even now, how hard the trainee years was and how lost they felt and how unsure of tomorrow they felt and how exhausted they were. And yeah, it's just, it really comes through in these hidden tracks, just how difficult it was. And like you say, this song is very sad and it makes me think of walking down a path in the rain at nighttime and just feeling like really miserable and sorry for yourself. And
you know what it is? It's also like you can sense, I mean, you'll get into the lyrics, but like you can sense their disillusionment with it. That they're just like, I thought I was gonna join this idol company, I'm gonna make music, I'm gonna dominate the industry, I'm just gonna make a name for myself because I have the talent. And then them going through the reality of what you actually need to do to get there, and them realizing how small and insignificant they are in the grand scheme of things. And just it's, you know, it's the thing that we kind of all go through, you know, growing up, when you realize that your big dreams are not as realistic as you thought they were. And then
and I honestly think that when you're younger, before you kind of go through this experience personally, you often think that, and it's something Juna said a lot, you often think that happiness is a goal, and oh well, after this I'll be happy, or once I reach this point I'll be happy, or after the struggles have ended I'll be happy. But as you kind of get older and go through more life experiences, like you realize that that's just never the case. There are ups and there are downs in all walks of life, in all phases of your life, and it's more about changing your perspective and not waiting to reach happiness and just enjoying happiness in the moment. And I think that's a journey that they went on themselves, and it's really reflective in their music. And the difference, for example, with Namjoon and his at first his obsession between idol and artist, and then coming to that realization of, well, it doesn't matter. So he never had to choose. Yeah, like he didn't have to choose one or the other. He just had to change his perspective. And I think that's the same with this kind of feeling. But it's something a lot of us relate to, I think, of just feeling like it would get better and then it didn't. And then you're kind of like, what?
Yeah, what now? Like, what did I do wrong? Yeah. I have another comment, but I want to make it after you read the lyrics. Okay, so do you want to read us the lyrics to the skit, please?
Yes, I will. So this is from Namjoon, our leader, and it's a poem, I believe. It seems more a poem than lyrics, I would say. The translation I've got is off Genius this week because Dulcet doesn't have the translation on her website. But it seems like a good translation, so we'll go with this. Okay. Let me get my most professional and profound speaking voice on. Let's go.
You mean your normal voice?
No. Okay. Trainee. In many ways, this term defines my existence. But at the same time, it is a term that I can never truly explain. A period of time, a state of transition, where I could neither belong anywhere, lost. Wait, never mind, that was my note, ignore the lost. Where I could never... I'm reading out my notes at the same time. Okay, it's because it made me think of the song Lost. Anyway... Right. A period of time, a state of transition, where I could neither belong anywhere, nor do anything. Why are you laughing? Shall I start again?
No, keep going. I just keep thinking of you saying lost, and then I was sitting here. I'm looking at the translations as well, and I was like, oh shit, do I have the right song? I don't see that word anywhere.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Okay, I feel like I've gotten us out of the serious mood. Okay. The biggest concerns I had living as a trainee were the questions of friends and family. When are you going to come out? When are you going to debut? Questions like these. I couldn't give them an answer because I didn't know either, because such answers were unknowable. Though I came here through a certain confidence and belief in myself, what awaited me was a different kind of reality. Even now, after 3 years have passed, even as I occasionally gain the self-certainty to think things like, once I debut, I will conquer the music industry. Whenever I hear the criticisms of the producers and teachers, I am again overwhelmed by the realization that I am nothing, that I am as inconsequential as a speck of dust. It's as if, though, before me lies the bluest ocean, and if I turn to look back, a vast desert awaits me. In this hourglass-like mindset, In this mood, I spent my 3 years as a trainee, and now my debut is finally drawing near. Even after I debut, new oceans and new deserts will likely await me. I am not afraid, because what has made me who I am are the oceans and deserts I have witnessed until this moment. I will never forget the oceans and deserts I have seen, because I am a trainee. Okay.
I feel like we've said so much. Like we've summarized this entire thing already.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think, and like I said, I think his words really just speak for itself. And the one line that I really wanted to point out, because it just broke my heart, is, and because it's so beautifully poetic as well, I am again overwhelmed by the realization that I am nothing, that I am as inconsequential as a speck of dust.
I think that's a realization you have growing up. You know?
But this is not linked to BTS, but it reminds me of a quote from my favorite book of all time, Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. There's a film of it as well, which is pretty good. So if you haven't watched already, you should. But
I need to. It's on my to watch list.
It's really great. But there's a line in it that is kind of answering Namjoon's line. So it's, let me see if I can remember this. It's something along the lines of, only as you gasp your dying breath shall you understand. Your life amounted to no more than a single speck, a single drop in a limitless ocean. Yet what is any ocean but a multitude of drops? So I feel like
I like
that's
that.
Right, but it's answering
I like that
this.
a lot.
Yeah, like he says, he's realized that he's as inconsequential as a speck of dust. Yet what is any ocean but just multiple drops? You know, what is any atmosphere except multiple specks of dust? So yeah,
I like that. That's actually really reassuring.
Yeah, right. I love it.
I like that thought. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing that I just wanted to say is that whole metaphor of oceans and deserts. It was born here.
Yes.
This long ago.
Yeah.
And I find that just, it's both mind-blowing and just so, like, it makes me feel so proud.
Yes. The journeys that their different lyrics and their different thoughts have gone on through the years. And we kind of touched upon this last episode with Like, and how much their attitude towards love has developed and matured over the years. And then it's the same here with how their attitude towards the sea and the desert and in relation to hardships, and just how much it has evolved. And doesn't it just make you so proud?
It does, and it's so relatable, and it makes it's their experience, their musical expression is their journey as humans through life, and they are giving words and giving voice to feelings and thoughts that we all have and don't talk about or don't spend the time to think about, but we are doing it through them, and I find that enriching because you can apply it to yourself.
Yeah, 100%. And even if you're not there yet, even if you're not caught up to where they're at, just know that you will one day, you know?
Agreed. Is there any last comments you wanted to make on the song?
Just the last thing is that it reminded me of that quote by Namjoon when he said that he thought that the problems would disappear after they debuted, but it turns out you're more likely to have bigger issues once you see more of the world. And again, I think this is just about changing your perspective and not expecting there to ever be an end goal of rosy unicorn and sunshine, and because that's just not reality. And I think once we learn that, it just becomes a lot easier to just be happy in the moment. And I think they've reached that point as well now. Yeah.
To be honest, I don't think there is a destination in life. Life is just a journey until you can't journey anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
I love them. I just like,
I know.
Us talking about their music. I'm really proud of how deep they were even back then.
Like, how old was Namjoon when they debuted? Maybe like 17 or 18?
Something like that. I don't remember.
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but very young, and he's just he's just a remarkable person, honestly, even back then.
Isn't that what Bang PD Nim said about him? Where he said
Yes.
that like what drew him to Namjoon was his deep lyrics at such a young age. And he just like couldn't stop. He was I think Namjoon's way of expressing himself is magnetic. Like you can't ignore it.
Yes, definitely. And I think it's why he's a born leader, because he just draws people in. Like he has this way of just really just making you feel something, and you can't not. And honestly, anyone who doesn't like Namjoon, I just don't understand like how you could not like Namjoon.
He is one of the most likable people in the
Right?
world.
Right?
You
So
don't even have to
likable.
speak the same language. Like he's just okay. You had
Moving
your
on.
Namjoon appreciation in a previous episode. Okay.
Yeah, go there if you want to check that one out.
All right. So moving on to the next song, Path. Do you want
Yes.
to introduce this one to us?
Yeah, so I mean, with this one, again, it's very just reflective on their years as trainees. What I really like about this is how we got some really personal looks at each of the rappers' journeys whilst they were a trainee, and how they felt, how each of them came to be here, and how they felt during their time as a trainee. We can get further into the lyrics another point, but I think what's really interesting is that if you think about it, the latest song that they have released is Ego, because it's the outro. Even if it was released beforehand, it's their last song of their discography, apart from the On remix, but I don't think that counts. And this is very similar to Ego. So in the chorus, they say, would I have been different if I had chosen a different path, if I had paused and looked back? And then what will I get to see at the end of this path where you will be standing? And with Ego, he does the same thing of like looking back at my life as, you know, as that trainee or as that dancer from when I was younger, and trying to imagine what my life would have been if I'd have taken a different path. But now he's kind of resolved to the point of, well, I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, I just have to look forward. I don't need to look back anymore. And what's great about that is that obviously Map of the Soul 7 and Ego sampled from this album. And I feel like they must have gone back and listened to this song and kind of taken influence from it and revisited it. So I just thought that was really interesting.
I love that thought. I think I agree with you. They had to, you know, like
Yeah.
This music is a time capsule. It is how they felt at that moment in time. Can you imagine how trippy it must be to go revisit the you of 7 years ago?
Yeah.
Well, probably more, because right, they wrote all this
Yeah.
music even before they debuted. Yeah, I also like this song because the lyrics in it are just very, like, they're not flashy. They're just very honest. Like,
Yeah.
I want to say it's Yoongi who's, he raps, like, you know, like, this is my third spring here. Like, I'm getting early gray hairs. Like, I feel like an adult child. Like, when are we going to debut? And, like, think of it from their perspective, right? You have this group of men who decided they wanted to become idols. They've been training, they've been learning how to dance, how to sing, how to rap, how to entertain, how to have a stage presence, all the other bits and pieces that go into being an idol. I don't know what those are. And it's not like here's your 6-month crash course on how to do it. It's a 3-year process. That's like almost an entire like undergrad somewhere. Right?
Yeah.
Like all of their friends, I bet, or people they knew have, you know, are in college, are maybe have internships, have jobs, are moving away from home, you know, maybe they found like a significant other. And then you have the BTS that they just kind of seem frozen in time, waiting to debut, waiting to start something, feeling
And
themselves...
not even know if it will happen as well.
Yeah, so it's like they're living on a pipe dream. They're hoping, and and the world is going on without them, and they just feel like they're waiting for their turn at the table.
Yeah, and it's just so scary. Like, could you imagine living in that mindset every single day, like giving it your everything and not even knowing if it will pay off, not even knowing if it will
No.
amount to anything? Like, that
No.
would be so scary, especially at such a young age. You would just feel so overwhelmed every single day.
Yeah, and that's where you would start to question, am I doing this right? Like, why is no one else that I know an idol or like an idol
Yeah.
trainee? What, like, am I nuts to have gone down this path? Maybe. And I was
so I mean-
I was just gonna say, like, I personally could never have done this. Like, this is not a career path for me. My brain doesn't work this way. I mean, that's why I went into finance and accounting, because someone somewhere will always need a person to take care of the money. So I have job security, and that's how I chose my career. This, to me, is nuts.
I'm the total opposite. So I feel like if I was Korean, maybe I would have been an idol trainee, and I'm very whimsical, but at the same time, I think being that way is just so difficult and so scary. Honestly, yeah, I can't even imagine how they must have felt.
I don't know. I also think this is just like a big gamble. Can you also imagine the pressure on them from, well, they talk about it in the song, like from their family, like, hey,
Yeah.
you know, like we said, you know, you made this decision to go to Seoul and train to become an idol. When are you debuting? It's been 3 years. Like, are you sure you're debuting? Are you not being just led along? Like, maybe this isn't going to work out. What is your plan for your future, Namjoon? You know?
And the thing with like idol trainees and stuff as well is the majority of them either never debut, or if they do debut, it doesn't go anywhere. And especially for somebody from such a small company, it was just jumping into the void. And the thing is, with a lot of them, they were at that age where if this didn't work out, what were they going to do? Like, they've already given everything.
They didn't study. Yeah, they didn't, you know, study to take the exam, to go to a good college. They just focused on their passions, which is very admirable. Takes a lot of courage, and also a lot of like, just don't think about it, just do it. Do what you can.
Right, so I want to talk about each of the rap verses just briefly, because they all talk about their individual journeys. So what I have for Namjoon's is he talks about this a lot in a Hip Hop Lover as well, of just the types of people that he looked up to and how he tried to forge his own style by learning from these people. And he says, back then my lyrics were all, they've starred out the curse word here, so I don't know which one it was supposed to be, but it says stubborn old fogey. So yeah, like, it's just how he didn't really know what he was doing back then, and he was just trying his best. Also, they mention Hongdae, I think that's how you pronounce it here, and that's just a fun fact because me, you, and Song were actually talking about Hongdae this week before we looked at these lyrics. So I was like, oh, cool.
Small world. Do you want to say what Hongdae is?
Yeah, so it's a district in Seoul, and it's known, so Dorset has written here, it's known for its indie music culture, clubs, arts, and so on. And so Namjoon used to be an underground rapper, releasing and performing tracks. So she's just talking about his background. But Hongdae is known as being kind of like quite a cultural and artistic neighborhood. And I was saying how if I ever came to Seoul or lived there for a while, I'd love to go to Hongdae, and I feel like that would be the place I would fit in the most. Yeah. So yeah, the next part of him just talks about how his rap improves, and then I just wanted to highlight this one segment and just read it out again because it's just genius. Some say art is long, life is short, but now for me, art is life, life is sports. Isn't that great? Like, what?
I love that.
Yeah, what a line.
What do you think he means when he said life is sports?
I feel like, so what I take from this, so some say art is long, life is short. So you shouldn't put everything into these risky moves and these like they should be hobbies. Life is short, you have only a certain amount to do things. But then he says, but now for me, art is life, life is sports. So now I don't care about living. Living is just secondary for me. Living is just something that I do because it's easy. Like we have a phrase, I don't know if you use it as well, of like, oh, it's sports, like
No.
life is sports. It just kind of means like it's just a game. It doesn't mean anything. Like it's just fun. It's just something we can play. So I feel like what he's saying is, oh, some say that we should be focusing on a specific thing and art should be a hobby. But for me, art is my everything and life doesn't matter and it's just a game. So I'm going to focus on my art. And then he says, just do it. And I'm wondering, is that a reference to like
Nike?
Adidas? Is it Nike?
It's Nike. Yeah.
Oh yeah, one of them. I'm not sure, but I feel like it is.
I think, I think it is a reference. Oh my God, this is even better now that we've talked about this. I love this so much.
Right? I love that last passage. I think it's genius, and it's not in his native language. And also, how does he know that saying? Life is sports, like. And the way he says it as well,
great.
it's like da 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 da. Like it's a great flow.
He's a freaking genius. Like, the more we talk about this, I'm just like, even back then, even their very first freaking album,
yeah,
he could play with words like this. This just makes me angrier that they weren't received as well as they could have been. Because if somebody had taken the time to just listen to what they were saying, they would have enjoyed it. They would have connected. They would have related, and they would have appreciated this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it really is a shame. But you know, the positive is that they have people like us now going back over it and giving it the appreciation that it should have had back then. Yeah. So did you want to say anything about Namjoon's verse or about the chorus?
Nope. I think you've covered it well. We can move on.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll move on to Yoongi's verse, and I think the end of Yoongi's verse is probably my favorite in the whole song, but we'll get there. So what did you think about his passage?
Well, this is where they bring up the concept of him just being like, I feel like a adult child. Like the whole, I'm stuck in place. I'm continuing to grow in body, but my mind, my career, where I am in life is stuck back where it was, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like also we all go through this where like you compare yourself to your peers as you grow up and you're like, am I doing better? Am I doing as well as everyone else? Am I doing worse? Like, have I met the milestones that life has put before me? And it's a really relatable feeling. And I can only imagine how tough it must be to just be doing this same thing of preparing to debut for 3 freaking years and having it not always be an uncertainty. I could never do that. I don't think I have it in me. I'm not that kind of a risk taker.
Yeah,
So
I think a lot of people aren't. So for me, like the best part of this and the most telling part of this and the thing I love the most about it is, so he talks about at the end of the first verse, it's the many friends of mine split off one by one without family, lonely is how they've written it, but
I think it's just lonely. I think it's a typo.
Yeah. I don't know, but yeah, I greet the third spring in Seoul. So he's basically saying, like, after the 3rd year of him living in Seoul, all his friends are leaving him. His family isn't there. He feels alone, and he's just kind of passing through the seasons. And yeah, and then the end of the next verse is, I thought I was alone, but then I heard that it was 7. Rather than being barefoot, I wear the shoes that are called Bangtan and go forward another step, a fresh more, the 4th spring that I will greet in Seoul. So isn't that just the most beautiful progression? And it makes me want to cry when I read it, because I think about him and I think about how lonely he must have been, and he just left everybody behind and everyone was leaving him and it wasn't going anywhere. And I'm sure with all the people coming and going who were in the team and then weren't in the team and then meeting the actual team members, but they were still awkward because they didn't really know each other. But eventually they just molded into this team of 7, and how it's like, okay, last spring it was like this, but now I'm just about to greet the next spring, and this is where I'm at now. And it just touches me on such a personal level.
I think it also speaks to the fact that Yoongi, even back then, felt loyalty to them and was like, I've created this bond. I'm just going to be very quiet about it and just have it and not really tell anyone except through my music. That seems very, very like him, doesn't it?
Very, yeah. He's just... he makes me soft. Okay, so then we've got Hobie's, and he talks again here about how he started out because of his love of dance, and just how difficult it was, and learning to bend and not break, and then so the thing that I really liked in this was, now I try shining a new light on me and carving Bangtan into a blank page that is called the world. I walk towards my future with more lights turned on. I put on a smile in the far future. And so it's kind of like, this is a black page right now, but I'm going to try shining something on me and on my team. And I will have this faith in the back of my mind that in the future, there'll be these lights and I'll be smiling. It's just so sweet.
I mean, we'll get into this when we get to our Hobie appreciation hour, but like I don't think he naturally was a bright and shiny person, right? They even talk about it in like various like videos they've done where the rest of BTS is like, Hobie used to be really serious. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. And he made a decision to be like, nope, I'm going to put a smile on my face and I'm going to be hopeful and bright and cheery because that's how I want to greet the future. I don't want to greet it depressed and sad. I don't want to be more miserable. I want to make myself happy.
And so, I think what I love about this as well is when they've said before that there's often a secret that they have the orders of 1, 2, and 3, and usually Hobie goes last because he's full of hope, and he brings that point at the end of the song where it's like, okay, we've had this big journey and we've put everything out, but then we're going to end on Hobie's note of his great tone and his resolve that things are going to be better tomorrow. And it's just so great that they do that.
yeah I think we probably watched the same like video where they say that.
So any last thoughts before we move on?
Just that I love that this song goes hand in hand with the skit, and I love that the skit comes first and then the song comes after on the album, because the skit is just Namjoon's thoughts, and then everybody, the song is everybody else going, yeah, we agree completely. We all had the same miserable struggles.
Yeah. It's just really nice as well because it feels like this is kind of putting a full stop at the end of their trainee years, and with this song, this is the end of one chapter and looking ahead to the next one. And so it's just great that they did that, and that ends the album.
Well said.
So, you know, time flows like stars. 시작은 M&M 가비 on 에픽하 따라하는 걸 넘어 내 랩을 적고 새기다 보니까 벌써 어느새 내가 홍대 그때 내가 산 온통 다 건데 But we don't know the future 쉼없이 꿈꾸던 중 날 묶어버린 현실의 덜 그 정신의 덜 뜨거운 가슴은 차가운 머리에 져버렸어 그렇게 내 선택이 옳다며 맹신하던 그 와중에 천산지 양만지 모를 그것이 말을 해 랩 제대로 해볼 생각 없냐고 Yes or no 망설일 시간은 없다고 더 바보는 되기 싫었던 난 이곳에 왔고 3년이 지나갔어 Something earth is long, life is short But now from earth is life, life is sports Do it on
난 달라졌을까 다른 길을 택했다면 멈췄어 뒤돌아봤다면 Oh hey yeah hey yeah 난 뭘 보게 될까 이 길의 끝에서 네가 서 있을 그곳에서 Oh hey yeah hey yeah
시간이 흐르고 2000
2013년 연습생으로 있었지 3년은 내 모습은 고등학생에서 어느새 커버린 어린이가 됐어 욕심의 새치가 많아지고 그만둔 친구들은 하나둘씩 갈라지고 가족 없이 난 외롭게도 서울에서 만난 세 번째 봄 데뷔가 코앞이면 걱정이 없어질 줄 알았어 다르실 게 없는 현재에 난 눈을 감았어 현실은 달랐고 주위에서 날 말려도 빛도 안 보이는 터널들을 나 홀로 걸었어 혼자인 줄 알았는데 알고 보니 일곱 맨발이 아닌 방탄이란 신을 신고 앞으로 나가야지 한 발 더 새롭게 더 서울에서 맞은 네 번째 봄
난 달라졌을까 다른 길을 택했다면 멈췄어 뒤돌아봤다면 Oh hey ya hey ya 난 뭘 보게 될까 이 길의 끝에서 네가 서 있을 그곳에서 Oh hey ya hey ya
2010년의 해 내 걸음은 솔로 향하네 그저 춤이 좋아 시작해 넌 내가 이제 무대 위에 서네 그 사이에 많은 고통과 상처들을 이겨내고 날 갖춰 부러질 바에 휘고 말자는 나의 관념을 살려가며 3년을 달려 내 가슴 안에 있는 별들을 밝혀 이제 나 새롭게 비춰봐 세상이란 백지에 방탄도 새겨봐 더 불켜진 내 미래 열어가 웃음을 지어 먹는 now
난 달라졌을까 다른 길을 택했다면 멈췄어 뒤돌아봤다면 Oh hey ya hey ya 난 뭘 보게 될까 이 길의 끝에서 네가 서 있을 그곳에서 Oh hey ya hey ya 난 달라졌을까 다른 길을 택했다면 멈췄어 뒤돌아봤다면 Oh hey ya hey ya 난 뭘 보게 될까 이 길의 끝에서 네가 서 있을 그곳에서